Alright, I'm all ready and set to record tonight's episode covering No Guns Life. I better go ahead and get the disclaimer over with first, though. Warning. The Dub Talk podcast contains language which may be unsuitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Also, please be forewarned that there may be spoilers present for any and all anime, including but not limited to No Guns Life. So please be careful if there is any series that you have yet to finish. And finally, the opinions expressed in tonight's episode are those of the individual participants and do not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Okay, now that that's over, I think I'm ready to begin. Although I guess it wouldn't hurt to check my Twitter first. Let's open this up. Let's see. The world is burning. Our government is insane. Well, that's nothing now. Oh, Missing Link won a Golden Globe. That's cool. Wait. What's this? There was supposed to be a second Ninja Scroll film? There was already completed animation for it? And it got canceled? How did I not know about this? I can't. Brain does not compute. Ugh.
The rain falling on the window outside my office. It was a cold, dreary day in the city. Not much to do, not many cases to solve. All of a sudden I heard a thump outside my door. I got up, went to it, opened it. There was a letter outside. A letter asking to hire my services to review anime dubs. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Dub Talk, where we talk about the latest and greatest in English dubbed anime. I am your host, Amon. I am joined tonight by my fellow PIs, Roots.
Robot is online. Reviewing primary directive. 16 hours intermission. Destroy Jupiter 2. Destroy Robinson family. I gotta bring out the classic robot references whenever we're talking about a robot show.
That's classic?
Lost in Space!
Are you... What? Lost in Space? Come on.
Lost in Space! There was a 90s movie! There's a Netflix show!
I know, but it's for this particular kind of show we're talking about, that's not...
No, it makes complete sense, because you know what the Netflix reboot and this show have in common?
It's weird.
You know what they have in common?
What do they have in
You know what they have in common? They made the robot sexy, obviously.
Okay, there we go.
They've looked... the anime people looked far and wide at all the anime, and they're like, hey, all the monster fuckers are having all the fun. Where are the show for the robot fuckers? We're gonna give it to them. We're gonna put them in tight pants.
Which brings up the question if our main character has, proper equipment, but we'll get to that.
Well, judging by that 2-page spread in Volume 2 where Olivia is curled up on his lap, I'm gonna say probably.
So what you're really asking is Juzo packing? To which the answer is yes, but he needs somebody else to pull his trigger.
Not even 2 minutes in this episode's derailed.
And I am no clue, ladies and gentlemen. I had a Spider Noir reference ready to go for this intro, but I've completely ditched it by now, because we clearly don't have any dignity. Welcome to the podcast!
Unfortunately, we were going to be joined by a fourth co-host, Spaceman Hardy. But unfortunately, he cannot join us tonight, because earlier tonight he learned that in 2012 they were going to be making a second Ninja Scroll movie, and then it got canceled, and it has left him in such a state of shock that he cannot talk about anything, unfortunately. But we thank you for talking about the show with us off the line before the episode, and we hope you a speedy recovery from this horrifying news.
Definitely.
But tonight, as you may have guessed from the ludicrous hard-boiled intro I did, we are going to be talking about No Guns Life, SF hard-boiled, the gun smoke drifts, the muzzle talks.
That is amazing English.
That's pretty
It's
decent.
beautiful. It's poetic.
It is. Oh, absolutely. It is Walter Whit. No, yeah, was it Walter Whitman? Yeah, Walter Whitman's. Leaves of Grass could not have been written better than this. Bullets of a Gun. The poem. A novel-length poem written by a poor guy living with his parents well into his 50s. It's a good poem. Y'all should read it. Anyway, what is this show about?
I'm glad you asked. From No Guns Life. After the war, cyborg soldiers known as the Extended were discharged. Juzo Ino is one of them, a man whose body was transformed. He's ever replaced with a giant gun with no memory of his previous life, or who replaced his head and why. Ino now scratches out a living in the dark streets of the city of Resolver, as a Resolver, taking on cases involving the Extended. And it all goes well until a certain case lands on his desk, and he finds himself embroiled in a conspiracy and mayhem. He must decide how to proceed.
I mean, if you couldn't tell from a world where people can replace their body parts with cybernetic enhancements, which is a staple of the cyberpunk genre, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amon, but the cyberpunk genre is very heavily deep in criticism of society and usually like anti-capitalist in nature. Am I right?
Look, there is a reason that when you get down to it, the villain of say Blade Runner is not really any of the replicants, it's the Tyrell Corporation. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a reason for that.
So, and I'm very glad that they decided to make this particular show is kind of in the style of Blade Runner, except instead of it being in a futuristic city, it's kind of set in a past city, like a 1910s, not cyberpunk, but steampunk kind of universe.
A little bit. It's very old timey for something for a show where people have cybernetic bodies. Everything feels very run down and old. This is not the gleaming future we were promised. This is kind of the mundane future where Humphrey Bogart has to go investigate divorce cases because that's what pays the bills sometimes.
Humphrry Bogart with a giant gun on his head and metal teeth. Oh man, I can't wait to see that reboot. I mean, because nowadays how they're taking actors and they're like remaking them using CGI to bring dead actors back to life. Imagine they use that technology. But they use that technology.
Oh my god, that is like the most cyberpunk thing going on right now.
It really is.
You're right. Right down to the corporate synergy, not caring about humanity element of it. Just think, in 20 years, in 100 years from now, when we're all dead, somebody could remake this podcast and, cybernetically recreate our voices without our consent.
Hello, fellow listeners. I'm Roots of Justice. Welcome to the Dub Talk Podcast.
And so are we going to talk about the cast list of this episode.
This is a true fact. Also, speaking of CGI, I did want to note my favorite thing about this episode. About this show. No Guns Life, made with Unreal Engine TM. Every time it pops up in the credits, I'm like, amazing. Look how far technology has come.
Well, what else do you expect from Madhouse?
I don't know anymore. Everything I knew about Madhouse is like a decade out of date at this point. This is what I get for not following the news ever. Anyways, now that we've had our fun, shall we get started and start talking about the ADR director and scriptwriter for this show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what weapons do they have on their heads?
Let's see, I guess the ADR director probably has either a microphone or a mixing board, and I'm guessing the writer probably has a pen or something, some sort of writing utensil.
Just a giant pencil head.
Exactly. Just a giant hand with a pen.
It's the rejected Clippy mascot.
Clippy!
That was rejected because it didn't look stupid enough.
I see you're dubbing an anime. Can I help you?
Alright, who's got the microphone on their head?
Did we have any predictions for these guys? For these roles?
I'm
Go
be
ahead.
honest with you. I ended up predicting it like 100% spot on. So.
All right, you can go last then. Noah, did you have any predictions?
Well, I did, but see, the thing is that I thought this was the show about the high school boys who play soft tennis and have emotional bonding experiences. So all my predictions are very, very off here. Like I had absolutely the wrong casting for the guy with the gun on his head, or for the woman who's a gearhead. So probably not a good thing to ask me.
Fair enough. All right. I also did not. Well, I have predictions, but I don't have any for director and writer because I'm bad at it. So in that case, Roots. If you did in fact, would you like to give your predictions in that case?
Okay, so, I mean, to be honest, it wasn't really a prediction, and more, the director kind of accidentally spoiled his involvement before the show even came out.
I remember this now. Yeah.
Where he put out a tweet that he was in the booth starting work on a new project, and the No Guns Life manga is clearly visible in his office.
Subtle.
And it's just
he was. He was trying to hinge on that being new enough that no one would recognize it.
It could have been a red herring.
That's true.
I mean,
but
it could have been,
unlikely.
but
It could have been. Yeah, he could have been trying a when they were announcing the cast for Free, and Travis Willingham said, "I've got a big announcement tomorrow, and that is I'm getting a haircut. Also, I'm not in the Free dub."
Oh, that's right. And in terms of writer, I didn't actually get that correct, but around the same time, Jared Green had announced he was starting to do script writing for Funimation. I don't remember if it was part or full-time, but I ended up putting him in here, because I don't know if it would be in his wheelhouse, but it kind of feels like it. So, those were my predictions.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right. So, in actuality, the ADR director is, as Roots hinted to, if you were following him on Twitter at the time, the ADR director was, in fact, Kyle Phillips. Who very, very brazenly tweeted that out.
Wait. Who the fuck is Kyle?
He's that director we like. Not the other director we like, or that other director we like.
No.
Other director that we like.
Yeah. But think of it, we have a lot of directors we like. We should make
and
a
that
system
one
or
that
something.
just happens to constantly do the shows that constantly seem to be very specifically Roots branded.
Mike McFarland? That was a reference to another episode. I'm sorry, you were saying Amon.
That's fine. In addition, Kyle has gotten some assistance on this project. He's gotten, for an assistant ADR director, we have Tabitha Ray and Megan Shipman. And per Kyle's Twitter, apparently the most recent episode as of this recording, episode 9, was in fact fully directed by Megan Shipman because Kyle's on paternity leave. He had a baby recently. Congratulations,
Oh, wow.
Kyle.
Yeah, congratulations, Kyle Phillips. This is kid number 2, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
It only gets better from here.
And you would know, wouldn't you?
You gotta be a special kind of dad. And I feel confident saying Kyle is, and indeed, a special kind of dad.
I would hope so. He seems like it. And on ADR script writing, we have Clayton Browning. Kyle, you might know for directing shows such as The Ancient Magus Bride, Hinamatsuri, and Overlord. Tabitha Ray and Megan Shipman have also done their own directing. Tabitha's done Suredure Children, Meiji Tokyo Renka, and Goblin Slayer. Megan Shipman's done Astro Lost in Space, Fairygon, and Radiant, among others. And Clayton Brown has written such shows as Boogie Pop and Others, Fairygon, and SSSS Gridman. Gentlemen, why don't you tell me, what are your thoughts on the writing and directing of this dub?
It's a very interesting hybrid of a couple of different genres, like we talked about in the intro. And did you guys watch any of the original Japanese audio?
I watched a little bit before the dub started coming out.
Yeah, I've only seen the first episode sub.
Okay. And I asked because I did not, so I don't know how the Japanese handle some of the archetypes, because we know Japanese voice acting is very archetypal, and English voice acting can be too. I don't think there are some archetypes here aren't really archetypes that exist in English, and we'll talk about those when we get to them. But the key thing for what we've seen is that this is such an alien world, so the dub has to do its best to make everything as palatable as possible. If you were to give all the actors super synthesized or super robotic or super distorted voices, kind of talking in a Stephen Hawking voice throughout the whole thing, that would make it more difficult for the audience to grasp the war, the technology, the conflict, and the characters. So I like that Kyle and his team went with lots of recognizable voices. Everybody is pretty easy to grasp onto based on their first interactions, like based on just their voices. You got gearheads, you've got villainous characters, you've got hard-boiled detectives, you've got drag queen landladies, and all of them are pretty easy to grasp onto right away. So I think it's a really good direction job for a kind of show that I don't think we have like an equivalent to compare it to. And for the writing, there's a lot of exposition in those first couple episodes. Actually, throughout the whole show, at least every other episode is a description of, here's what the war was. Here are the people who donated their bodies to science. Here is why this particular brand of cigarettes is no longer available, but why it's so goddamn good. And Clayton does a really good job of making all that dialogue, like I said, palatable. And so for this expositing this post-war world, I really don't have any qualms with how they handled this. Like maybe if they wanted to go a little bit goofier to really play up the alienness of the world because it's so different from our own, or is it ... But I like what they're doing with this, and I think that's the dub is a big reason why the show has caught on so well with audiences, because from what I understand, the show is relatively successful of the fall 2019 shows.
Probably. I could see it.
That's my understanding as well. My scale for success usually is a combination of fan art and are like the two anime YouTube people I follow making videos about it. And in that regard, I haven't seen too much fan art, but Jeff did a video on it, so that's something.
Yeah.
I mean, the art aspect of it is like, I'm looking at the designs for like Jiro, for instance.
Yeah, now I think, who wants to draw a fucking gun robot, right?
That's very easy to mess up. Although I would love to see the second grader who is watching this illegally, and like it's art class time, and the teacher said, draw your favorite cartoon character. It's a guy with a gun on his head. Time for, god damn it, another parent-teacher conference.
Oh, you can't win, can you?
So dub pretty good.
Excellent. Roots.
Yeah, so this actually ended up being a really interesting dub. We'll be getting more into it over the course of the episode, but a lot of the names attached to the cast are relatively fresh.
Oh yeah.
Last time I got to talk about a show like this was Goblin Slayer, and
that's a very different beast.
I had mentioned in the episode for that show that I'm very fascinated when a dub ends up taking on a bunch of people we don't necessarily conflate with anime dubs, and who you would really have to look at ANN to see what they had done in the past. This also follows in that vein, and I'll have words to say throughout the course of the episode on the individual actors, but overall, I like dubs like this, especially with a show like No Guns Life that is probably going to end up being one of the bigger name shows that Funimation has in its simulcast lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably going to be actively viewed by people. So getting a bunch of fresh faces in front of the audience is always a good thing in my book. Even if the dub ends up not particularly like perfect, pristine. Like, you're getting new people in front of the mic in a capacity that, you know, people are going to look at a name on the cast list and they're like, okay, this is this person.
Mm-hmm.
And in subsequent seasons, you know, oh hey, that person from No Guns Life is back. Cool.
I mean that's always a nice thing when you have like you could have character actors who have done a lot of stuff in the background, who have been like one-shot roles, and to finally say like oh, it's that guy from a show, like I actually recognize them from one show. Yeah, that can carry you a long way.
Yeah, like I'm assuming a bunch of these people were from like Walla at Funimation for a little while, maybe like a couple of years, and then finally managed to like get a big name credited role. So, like, good on that. In terms of direction, it's kind of a boilerplate Kyle Phillips dub, which it's another one of those Roots coins something that sounds like an insult, but it really isn't, because Kyle is a very consistent director. I mean, the three of us talked about Fire Force a couple weeks ago, so
It's true.
and yeah, that was a very well produced dub. This one is as well, and the Clayton Browning, in terms of the scripts, does a really good job sort of balancing out the hard-boiled detective drama with the goofy Juzo's face turns into Alphonse Elric.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm sure we were all thinking it, but yes, there seems to be quite a bit of FMA influence on this.
Or Elias from Ancient Magus Bride, where he just turns chibi for a couple of scenes, and he's got to be goofy.
I just imagine the animators. Oh, thank God, his face is a little easier to draw in these chibi moments. I can get paid this week.
But it's just the dub scripts managed to handle that tightrope act very, very well. So, in all, on the production side. Oh, and by the way, the audio mixing is also really rock solid.
Mm-hmm.
We try to bring up, you know, editing and mixing every once in a while, and there's a lot of hard-boiled action and a lot of big sound effects going off, and the dialogue audio is never drowned out by it. So, on the production side, overall, it is a very consistent package. Very solid job.
Yeah, I'd like to second that about the audio mixing being very well done. I particularly like that as a show that has a lot of robots and cyborgs in it, there are quite a number of filters being used, and I do like that they have put effort into trying to make everybody sound distinct even within that. I don't know enough about like applying filters to be able to say like, oh, this is or isn't the same filter being used everybody, but there's very much an attempt of like everyone sounds like you can tell who it is even outside of like the vocal quality. It's really well done. Directing wise, I like this a lot. I'm a sucker for a good noir story. I love this shit. Give me a down out PI who gets the crap kicked out of him most of the way through the movie, but still prevails at the end, or maybe doesn't. The noir protagonists don't have very good life expectancy, frankly.
No, they really don't.
My favorite is the ones where it starts off with them in the middle of dying, and then you find out everything in flashback. That's always fun. Looking at you, Double Indemnity. Sorry if I spoiled Double Indemnity for you.
Well, they're dying. You know, at least we didn't get too attached to them. No!
I mean, I'm not sure attached is how I would describe my feelings toward Fred McMurray's character, but I see your point.
We have the same problem with like villains that were not at all sympathetic, and then right as they're about to die, it's like, oh, by the way, he loved puppies, and his dad never paid any attention to him when he was a boy.
The noir villains are usually, the noir characters usually aren't written with that level of manipulation. It's more just like, I think I find you interesting rather than likable, because you're still kind of an asshole.
I mean, that's a good thing.
Which is,
Anyway, but no, this is I enjoyed the direction on this a lot. I think it feels very authentic to that aspect of the story. I feel like, there, especially in the early episodes, there are plenty of instances where Juzo is monologuing about one thing or another, and I think those are all very well executed and well produced. I think everybody just sounds really great. We'll talk about more about the casting as we get to individual characters, but I think this is really well done on a cast front. I'm really happy with this. Kudos to Kyle, kudos to Tabitha and Megan. I also really like Clayton Brown's writing a lot for the same reason. It feels very noirish. He as Noah was pointing out, he handles a lot of explanatory dialogue, and I think he makes it flow very well and not just sound like a dry lecture. If I have any complaints, I have one very, very minor one, which is that there's a minor villain introduced a few episodes in, who's sort of a rampant cyborg criminal named Hugbear. And my complaint is only that in the manga, they localized his name as Huggy Bear, which I find infinitely more entertaining. I was a little disappointed to find out that was not shared by the anime dub script. But that's a me thing. I'm fine with that. Otherwise, it's really well done, and I'm very happy with it.
Huggy Bear.
Huggy Bear.
Yeah, no, I remember that cartoon from the 80s. That Disney show, the Huggy Bears, where, they drink juice that makes them have wielding blades come out of their arms when they hug people. Yeah, I love that cartoon.
Isn't that the Gummy Bears?
No, you're thinking of a completely different show. I don't know what you're talking about.
No,
this is a Starsky and Hutch joke. You're about 10 years too late.
This entire podcast is made of references that are about 10 years too late. Noir is like 100 years old at this point.
It's not that old.
It's older, isn't it?
It's like 80 years old. It kind of started about late 30s.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. In sort of the Depression era, right before World War II, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, and up through World War II, up until about end of the 50s, maybe, something like that. It's been on and off ever since.
Good point.
Anywho, do you have any further thoughts, or shall we move on to the next section?
Huggy Bear.
Look, someone saw it. They're like, I must take it. This opportunity has been presented to me. I cannot turn it down. But if we're ready to move on,
yep.
We'll go to our first set of characters, who are some minor characters. They're friends and neighbors of Junzo, who live in an apartment building. Because, as with all good noir stories, most of the hero's friends are a bunch of weirdos and layabouts.
No, Amon, you're thinking of Seinfeld. That's a completely different story.
Is it?
There is no difference between stand-up comedians and PI noir characters. Not a single difference. They also involve Nazis. Soup Nazis!
No killing the host while he's on the clock.
No,
you want to talk about references that are way too old. Anyway,
oh boy.
So who lives in this guy's apartment?
Well, there's a few people. There is his landlady, Christina, who's actually entirely honest. When I was reading the manga, I wasn't sure if she was supposed to be a cross-dresser or she was just old. Mm-hmm. The art style, she seems very much like she's gonna pinch her cheeks and try and make it eat cookies. So I was not entirely sure. But she's his landlady. There's Scarlett Gosling, who is this. She's the daughter of Andy the barber, who also lives nearby. And Andy is the one who does all the maintenance on Junzo's gunhead, because even in this weird fantasy world, you still need to do maintenance on your gunhead.
Absolutely.
And Scarlett's a nice lady who gets hassled by the cops a lot, because that's the kind of world they live in. It's very unfortunate.
I mean, not to make any commentary about the police or anything, but how much goodwill have we built up on this podcast that we can get away with?
I mean, look, we already had our little tirade about the evils of digitally recreating dead actors. I feel like if people have between this and the Tonagawa's Middle Manager Blues episode, if they haven't sussed out some of our politics already, it's their own fault.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so yeah, this is an interesting group of characters. Although, did you ever find out if Christina was actually a crossdresser, or if it's just the design?
I have absolutely no idea, frankly. All the sources refer to her as a woman. She is also played by a male actor in the Japanese, so I guess, but like, I'm not actually sure, frankly.
I mean, it could be sort of a oh god, what's his name? Harvey Firestein in Hairspray kind of situation.
Entirely possible. Like every source I found, which is like the fan wiki, so it's not like the most official thing in the world. Like they all use female pronouns, so like I have no idea.
Nothing more official than a fan wiki. We could not get through the Nichijou episode without referencing the fan wiki. That is our Bible. That is our God. When we are dead and gone, you people will reference our fan wiki in order to find out what our deal was.
This is a fair point. I'm not sure she's referred to by female pronouns. Yeah, shrug.
Okay, all right. So, what's the guy who plays her?
In Japanese, I don't remember.
What about?
Or do you want to know who plays her in English?
Segue.
I have a suspicion I know the answer. Do we have any predictions for this set of characters?
I only have a prediction for Juzo from here.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that'll make this part go quick. Alright, in that case, Christina is played by Jeremy Inman, who you know for such roles as Beat X in Beat X, Obi in Fire Force, and, of course, JJ in Yura and Ice. You can't see it, but I'm doing the little JJ hand pose because I think it's the funniest thing in the world.
I mean, he's the king, JJ. No one can stop him.
I cannot express how much my enjoyment of JJ increased when I realized that he dances to a song about how great he is.
Yeah, it's a bitchin' song.
Wonderful character.
It is.
That's the best part. It's a great song
it's
too.
The best song in the show. I think it's even better than the theme song, History Maker.
In its defense, it does help that it steals part of the chorus of "Faithfully" by Journey, but still, it's a great song.
Yeah. Steal from the best.
I mean, really, yeah. Scarlet is played by Macy Ann Johnson, who you know for such roles as Akashi in Azure Lane, Maru-san in SSS Gridman, and Yoshihiko Hiragi in Human Lost. And Andy Gosling is played by Andy Mullins, who may or may not be the namesake for that character. He does not have a name in the manga, actually. There's a very real chance he's called Andy because he's been named after his voice actor. I'm dead serious. Anyways, you know Andy Mullins for playing such roles as Fogel in Legend of the Galactic Heroes, Die Nude Thesis, Don Krieg and Wapol in One Piece, and Dominic Gastor in Wise Man's Grandchild. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on these characters? No, would you like to go first again?
My thought is that I feel like a chump because of all the roles you listed for Macy and Andy, I have heard absolutely zero of them.
These are just ones I picked because they were recent or I've watched them. Don't worry about it.
No, that's still indicative. Like, you would think that I would have at least seen Gridman, but no, I haven't seen it yet. I've heard of the shows. I just haven't seen it.
I mean, in your defense, I am also I'm a guy who I would love Gridman. I've still not gotten around to it because I am tired and lazy.
Yeah, you both would really love it for different reasons.
I'm sure I would, and I'm glad that you did recommend it because, I mean, as opposed to the people who go through the seasonal shows and just watch everything and hit burnout, I can just wait till the end of the season, let the smart people filter it for me, and only watch the good stuff. So I know that Gridman is well worth the watch, and that Darling in the Franxx is not.
Watch the good Trigger anime, yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why it's good for this show that I haven't seen any of those other shows is that this is my first chance to really give these two a fair shake. For Scarlett's voice acting, it's higher pitched than any of the other females that we meet, including one who shows up in her same episode. But she also gives Scarlett a kind of a cutesier speech pattern to her, and that's really it does play up the idea that she's not a ditz exactly. Like, from her design, from her buxom blonde design, you would think she's kind of more of a ditzy character. It's more like she's just kind of an innocent character, one who's a good assistant, is really good at putting hot towels on your face, but isn't exactly a ditzy kind of character. And so I do like the little bit that I get to hear from her. Not really sure what her bigger role in the overall show is going to be, except maybe a bit of fan service. But it's pretty good. It's a good first impression. And same goes for Andy, too, who I could have sworn it was, when I first heard it, because I hadn't checked the cast list before watching it, that Andy the barber was voiced by Sonny Strait, doing like one of his goofier voices. It
does sound like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I was kind of surprised that it wasn't. It's a nasally, nerdy old man voice with goofy. I would stand up for what's right, but I just peed my pants. Kind of weirdness. But it's good for Andy Mullins to again, first impression, good on Andy Mullins. Again, I don't quite know what his role is going to be here, except maybe like the tinkerer repairing things that need to be repaired kind of role. Which you do need one of those. So but they're both pretty good. And as for Jeremy's performance, I want to be respectful of what they were going for here. And if it was supposed to be, if the character of Christina is supposed to be a drag queen, then it's a pretty good archetypal version of it. Like they make no attempts to hide the masculine voice with that goofy affectation of like blue-haired ladies who I just want to take her home and feed her kind of speech pattern to her. And we didn't really get to do too much exactly. But I do like the element that it adds, like this idea that this tough gun-toting, he is a gun, PI, is at the mercy of, a middle-aged woman who just wants to feed stray kittens off the street. That's a nice dynamic. Kind of shows you, you may think you're tough, but at the end of the day, landlady's got to get paid.
He may look tough, but he's a big softy inside.
That he is. It's got a chrome outside, but a soft squishy ear on the inside.
Roots?
So I did a little digging, and in the Japanese, Christina is played by an actor by the name of Masashi Ibara. You'd know him from... You'd probably best know him as Mic Guy from Naruto. But he's also done a bunch of interesting things, like... he's dubbed over Robin Williams for Jumanji.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
That's a contrast.
And he's like the fake Tom Hanks in the Simpsons movie, Voldemort. Like,
Jesus Christ.
He's like this big, it looks like he's a big name overdubbing actor. So
yeah.
Sounds like it.
Just
that
put
is
that out there.
That is a pretty big, that is a big honor, too. Like, I don't think we appreciate how much reputation you get from voicing over big Hollywood movies in Japan.
Alright, so on that note, I'll start with Christina. It's not clear from the outset, as we mentioned, if Christina is in drag, trans, or an old woman, but I like how Jeremy Inman plays her with such a level of sass, but isn't like overly flamboyant about it. Like there are scenes like what is his name? Tetsuro meets her for the first time and freaks out. Like, that was... I personally think that was a little overplayed, but at the same time, that's more the fault of the show than the dub. But overall, Jeremy Inman does, like, a really great job playing her. Again, with sass, but not, like, overly flamboyant sass. Macy Ann Johnson as Scarlet. Like Noah mentioned, I like the fact that she's played more naive than ditzy. She doesn't get too much to do in the first 8 episodes of the show, but I feel like she'll be a bit more prominent, especially when we move on to the second core in the spring. And Andy Mullins as Andy. I just like the fact that he's playing this cantankerous old dude. Like, absolutely eccentric, absolutely skilled at what he does. Which is apparently barber and gun repairman. That's an interesting combination, but you know what? I'll roll with it. You know, you gotta get your side income somewhere. But it's just great to hear, because I was honestly a little bit of a fan of Andy Mullins' performance in Copcraft as the chief. Even though I felt it was a little stiff. You can go ahead and pop on the episode if you want to hear my opinions on that. Shameless self-plug.
Listen to our other stuff, goddammit.
We have other episodes. Go ahead. Go back. Listen. It's fine.
There's a lot of them. Keep you occupied for weeks.
That's true.
But Anne and Andy are just a whole bunch of fun. And Christina is fun. These three characters are fun, and the dub actors play them with a sense of fun. Fun!
Fun.
This day is fun day. Or should we
fun day.
Or should we say it's gun day? That pun made a lot more sense if we were recording this on a Sunday.
But our kid seat's still just $5.
I mean, the seat is $5, but you'll only need the edge.
I hope you like old things, audience, because there's going to be a lot of them in this episode.
Which, by the way, I'm all set if you want to go, Amon.
Oh no, sure. This is a fun set of performances for a nice little group of side characters, who I think at worst I feel like they're a nice touch of, like, among all the weirdness that Junzo has to deal with being a cyborg and dealing with the mob and so on. There's normal people he interacts with who are just trying to live their lives.
Normal people. The guy's got
look.
The guy is introduced.
We're already in a horrifying future dystopia where people have been turned into cyborgs in certain capacity. Normal is relative.
It's horrible. You call that horrible? I have been waiting all my life to get turned into a hybrid human lava lamp creation. If this is this is horrible to you, I don't want to know what you think good is.
But think about it. Think about it, Noah. The corporations make it. You have to buy the expensive shit from them to not go berserk.
But we could jerry rig this, you know. We could go underground and we could have like illegal operations that it may not be the best version of it, but it would be bucking the system, and throw it on the ground because I ain't gonna be a part of your system, man.
And that's what we see in the first episode with that poor lady that Mary has to partially disassemble because she has bad parts.
That's true, because her dad skimped out for the cheap stuff.
Exactly. It's late stage capitalism, man. It's a bitch. This is already dangerously approaching that plot point in the Blade Runner sequel where they figured out, hey, you know what's better than selling things to people? Selling things to other things. Even more money.
Don't give them any ideas.
Too late.
Amazon is already listening to this episode, I'm sure.
It's true. Yeah, they're a fun bunch of characters. Andy's a lot of fun as just this weird old guy who clearly would be very happy to just do haircuts and occasionally clean like giant gun barrels. And clearly does not want to have to deal with these mercenary types who are apparently kidnapping him. He's a lot of fun. Excuse me. I like Macy Ann Johnson's performance as Scarlet. Like you guys said, I like that they made her more of a just more of an innocent, which I think given the world they're in, that feels very appropriate. Plenty of noir movies have sort of the kind innocent who either gets dragged in or sits more outside the action and views it from their own perspective and how they can and cannot accept what's going on. I think she does that very well. And I think Jeremy is a lot of fun. I think Christina's not like she is far from the worst example of this sort of maybe a drag queen kind of character. I think we've seen plenty in anime that are a little
Yeah.
a little too much. And I won't say Christina doesn't have any of that, but I do like that she feels relatively downplayed. She feels much more like an actual human being you might encounter. And I agree. I think Jeremy does a good job of giving her sass without going too over the top all the time. I enjoy these characters. I can't speak to any sort of where the story is going to go from now on. We have caught up with where the manga is in English. So everything after here is I don't know what's happening, but I hope they keep showing up. They're fun. They're fun side characters. I enjoy them. So if we are ready, we can go on to the next set of characters.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Now we have some bad guys.
Woohoo!
Because what's a crime story without some shady corporations to mess everything up? First off, we have Karen. Karen appears to be a nun who is out seeking an escaped child named Tetsuro, who we'll talk about more later. But it turns out, nope, she's like a sort of an assassin hitman type who's out to kidnap him back because he wasn't supposed to escape.
She is a bad nun.
She's a very bad nun. Look at the way she dresses.
I mean, you thought Bad Santa was a bad, a bad character. Wait till you see the sequel.
Oh boy. We have her boss, her effective boss, Hugh Cunningham. He also works for the Barurin Corporation. I find him amusing because I went to college with a Hugh Cunningham. He's a lot nicer than this guy, as far as I know.
What college did you go to?
It's in Maine.
That explains it. That does not explain it. I have nothing against Maine. I'm sorry. What is the term for people who come from Maine? Is it Maineites?
Mainers, I think.
But you don't say it with an ER, you say it with an AH.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, so
Maina.
all your Mainas, I'm really sorry for all the bad things I've said about your state. You're beautiful. I love you. Want to kiss you.
What a
Go
god's
back
name
to
was
Long
that?
Island. Go back to Long Island. With
Never
that
make that
shit.
accent again.
We were watching The Heat the other night, and I'm just thinking, I think I was going for more of a Boston accent by accident. Sorry.
That's not even Boston.
That was still bad. Woo.
I make no promises of being good at anything.
That was New Jersey at its most generous. Jeez.
Joyce.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I don't know which state's gonna kill me, but whichever one it is, I'm sorry. Anyways, you were saying?
Hugh Cunningham also works for the Bruin Corporation. He's the security director. He does the Bruin Corporation's dirty work, and he really doesn't care what he has to do. If things need to get done, he'll get things done. Case in point, we have Anne and Ende.
God.
They're a pair of probably children or teens who are extended, and they've basically been hired by the Bruins, forced into working for.
Amon, have you seen Cyborg 009?
Not in a very long time.
Okay, well, all you need to know is children kidnapped off the street to become basically robot monsters against their will.
Oh, I remember that part.
Yeah, that.
Oh, yeah, they're hired to basically go kidnap Tetsuro after Karen and Hugh screwed up the first time, with a lot of promises that are probably not going to be kept if they do their job right, frankly, because the Bruin Corporation doesn't have that kind of employee loyalty, for being honest with ourselves.
Unlike most corporations who treat their employees with dignity and respect.
Yeah, right.
I'm only saying that because my own employees may be listening to this, and I love working for you people so much. It's not just about the money, I assure you.
It's not your company. It's the other companies.
Oh, that makes me feel better.
We just need to find that first draft of No Guns Life where every instance of Barurin used to say Amazon and then was scratched out late in production.
All they had to do was just switch the M to a W.
Exactly. There you go.
We regret to inform you that Barurin is now owned by the Scheinhard Wig Company. Scheinhard Wig Company.
Oh. So, evil nun, terrible capitalist, endangered children. What do we have? I assume we have no predictions for these performances?
No, I don't.
All right, then.
Yeah, no.
No, would you like to start us off?
Oh,
Well, you might want to tell us who played the characters.
Oh, wait, right, I didn't do that yet, did I? Sorry. Karen is played by Emily Neves, who you would know for such roles as Veronica Thorne in Fairy Gone, Eri in My Hero Academia, and Mihoshi in Nichijou. Hugh Cunningham is played by Tyler Walker, who you would know for such roles as Tahei Noka in All Out, Baba Kishira in Hinamatsuri, and Keppe in Sarazanmai.
Sarazanmai! You have to say it like that.
Broke out somewhere.
You have to say it like that.
Fair enough.
It's just the same way that you can't say Yurikuma Arashi without the long ah in the first word.
I see. I should probably watch some of these shows at some point, shouldn't I? Anyways, An is played by Tara Sands, you know for such roles as Kyusuka Yumino in Bungo Stray Dogs. She plays Mokuba in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side Dimensions, which I find very funny for some reason. And she plays Biscuit Krieger in Hunter x Hunter. And Ende is played by Skylar McIntosh, you know for such roles as Naoko Kamikishiro in Boogie Pop and Others, Izetta in Izetta the Last Witch, and Sayuri Hanayori in Seraph at the End. Noah, now that I've actually done my job correctly, would you like to start us off?
Well, all I can say about Ende is that this is the twisted, messed up version of Spider-Woman that nobody asked for, and I'm looking forward to it in the Spider-Verse sequel. Yeah. Her design, Ende's design of, like, you know, basically she's got robotic hands, and she can't control them at a certain point. Nope. That's pretty, like, that. We see a lot of these cyborgs have, like, you know, enhancements that have limitations to them. They kind of treat them like quirks in My Hero Academia, where no one has complete control over everything. But this one, like, Ende's is the most terrifying of all the ones that we've seen so far, and that's something that would be absolutely less terrifying if the English voice actress didn't nail that kind of broken voice that she has. Luckily, Skylar plays into so much of the screaming. She is one heck of a screamer, and that there's lots of rasp in her freak-out screams because she's crying because she's waiting for Anne to help her because, you know, basically taking her hand is the only way to calm her down. And Skylar absolutely nails that. I need to look up more of the things she's been in before because this is just really terrifying work. And it helps that she starts out with a softer, more subdued voice that kind of masks what it is that she is when we first see her. So it's a good contrast in the way that Skylar makes sure that her, you know, what she actually is unassuming when we first see her. Actually, that happens for a couple of different characters. Like, Karen is like that too. We don't know what she is at first. We think, oh, she's just a good civil servant who's trying to rescue a runaway. And I'm sorry, what is that? You're a killer assassin in a nun outfit? Oh, you're not so nice after all. But Emily sells it at the beginning by being very unassuming. And it's that voice that kind of masks her killer demeanor. And she really does go from nice nun character. This is like the second episode in a row that's had a nun character right after Fire Force. I wonder if it's going to be one in the next show. Japan has a thing for nuns, I guess. But anyways, yeah.
It's true, they do.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not.
No, it is.
What was I saying? Yeah, Emily's, it's probably the most normal Emily voice that I've heard of her, because I'm mostly used to her for her wackier comedic voices, like, Umaro-chan kind of voice. So to hear her in this more adult and less spastic voice, it's pretty cool. So Karen also does a good job. Now Hugh is interesting because Tyler Walker is a guy who I know mostly as an ADR director, and he's been doing a lot. Like, he's been around for a while. Like, he directed Bakano. He directed, I think he directed Desert Punk back in the day too. So it's nice to hear him as a voice actor again. I think I've been hearing him a little bit more this year than in past years. So what he does for Hugh is he uses lots of extended syllables to emulate a slimy attitude. And that's perfect for the character design. You can't be a suit-wearing corporate bad guy without having a kind of evil voice to him, and Tyler absolutely nails that. And then to round this out for Anne, who I should have talked about when we talked about Ende, but I didn't because I like to go into weird places. By contrast to Ende, Tara Sands gives Anne a much sharper, in control, more didactic voice. That while like the more serious of the two, like she would obviously be, you know, the more dominant in a relationship. She also has to be very empathetic in her scene where she does not, you know, things don't go well basically, and she's kind of like crying out for help. And Tara Sands, like she uses that sharper voice, like it's not so subdued. It's kind of a sharper, didactic voice to really play up the idea that someone who is this in control can still be scared and worried for what's about to happen, which, if you're seeing what's going on, yeah, it's kind of a scary scene. Evil corporations are not your friend, people. So for all the characters who are we the baddies? Yes, they are. But it's a good range. Like, no one sounds like each other, and the only fault I can say, and this is a fault of the show, it's not has any fault of the dubbing, is that the show likes to introduce characters, and once they're introduced, they're not always utilized again. Even if they don't die and they're still alive, they don't really get utilized all that much. They're kind of just like folded into the main cast. So it's kind of a shame that we will probably not be seeing any of these characters again, and they only got to shine for a couple of episodes.
If it makes you feel better, I can say that Hugh does appear again. I think he is going to be an on and off antagonist going forward.
Great. The best character of this group. I'm so glad that he's the one who gets to come back.
Karen might also show up. Her sister's in it.
All right. To be continued. For those watching in the future, myself and Roots have only seen up to episode 8, because that's as far as the dub got. So, yeah, that's... I'm sure future me's gonna listen to this and be like, "You moron! She comes back in the next episode."
There, it's okay.
God, Noah, you're an idiot.
People have had to eat much bigger pieces of crow on this podcast. You're good.
Good point. All right, so, anyways, Roots, what say you to the baddies?
Yeah, so, I guess we'll start with Emily Neves as Karen. I like the, I actually kind of like that Emily Neves used a more, it may not be her natural speaking voice, but it sounds like a more natural speaking voice. Compared to, like, Umaru, which, like Noah, is where I know her voice acting from. I'm more familiar with her as a scriptwriter or director. But I think she does a really good job with Karen. She doesn't really get a lot to do yet. I think she's only in the first 2 episodes, and then disappears until whenever she's needed again. But I like what I heard. So, not a lot to the character, but I like the performance. Tyler Walker's Hugh. Like Noah was saying, I like that he sort of enunciates everything in a kind of greasy and slimy way. I mean, because he's a bastard. He bought up all of Juzo's cigarettes in an attempt to get him to bend the knee to him, which he doesn't.
I mean, it didn't work, but I can see why he would think that would have been a good idea.
When you're a capitalist, when you're a capitalist with a capitalist hammer, every problem looks like a capitalist nail.
I mean, really, I was fully expecting, like, he was one line of dialogue away from, I see you like these cigarettes. Would be a shame if something would have happened to them.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
I did see him, because I caught like 5 minutes of episode 9. I I do remember seeing him for like a brief moment, so I'm glad he gets to show up more. Cause he's just this greasy little weasel, like groveling to everyone above the ladder from him, and it's just that's kind of a great antagonist character right there. Like, he's the Tonegawa, I'm guessing, of No Guns Life.
Oh, no. Well, hold on now. Hold on. Tonegawa. I would never call Tonegawa
the...
He is...
No, I see what Roots means.
Okay, alright. Yes, he is. Like, there's clearly some bureaucracy commentary going on here. But don't drag Tonegawa down to... He had way too much shit to put up with to be compared to this asshole. He brought them the good beef. He was a good man.
Boy.
He did not. Tonegawa did nothing wrong. Let it be said for the future,
Boy,
for all you listeners.
Tonegawa sure loves his new grill.
I feel like bringing the good beef gets canceled out by it being an elaborate mindfuck power play. You know, it's like.
He just wanted a good way to play rock, paper, scissors. Is there anything wrong with that?
But in any case, Tyler Walker does a great job with Hugh. I just love how much he just oozes on the screen. On and Enda, gonna talk about them together because, yeah, Onda's the spider one that goes nuts, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. She unfortunately doesn't get a lot of spoken line dialogue in her episodes. It's mainly just screaming out. But overall, that was pretty good. I'm actually kind of surprised to see Tara Sands in a Funimation dub. Not a bad kind of surprise, mind you, because I like her work, but like it's really interesting that she's here to do this character in like it looks like it's poised to be one of Funimation's bigger shows, but I don't know if it's gonna quite hit that level, just because of, you know, big jargon marketing stuff. But yeah, she does a really great job with she's trying to be Enda's pillar of support, and she is rapidly crumbling when she begins to realize that, oh, we've been played. But is also instrumental in pulling Enda back from the brink, and like that was one of my favorite story arcs of the episodes we've watched so far. So, thumbs up all around.
Yeah. Where to start? I also liked Emily Neves as Karen a lot. I thought she was a lot of fun. I also hope she comes back. As far as I can tell, she's not dead, and I feel like this is a show that's not super interested in just kind of discarding all of its characters after one use, at least in the long run. So I hope she comes back, and I do hope so, because I thought she was a lot of fun as a character. She was very like energetic and fun, and I thought just really played this character really well.
I mean, let's be real. Kidnapping kids is a total Karen move.
Oh. Oh. Wow. Do you hear that? Do you hear that, Roots? You hear that? That's the sound of a million angry women requesting to speak to your manager.
Joke's on them. He is the manager. Oh. So I'm at least a lot of fun. I want to sing Tyler's praises playing Hugh. He is so good at playing this, just a real slime bucket. Also, as it occurred to me while we were discussing this, he definitely has Richard Spence's haircut, so that feels appropriate.
Oh my god, he does.
It's that fucking alt-right undercut bullshit. It's like, that's what he has.
Yeah, that's another thing, too, is that, like, I was trying to differentiate between, like, what part of the show is commentative on, like, Japanese capitalism and what part's, like, is supposed to be an overt American or at least Western reference. That's one where I feel like especially with the name, like this is supposed to be a little more overtly Western-based bad guy.
A little bit. I feel like there's an argument to be made that the difference between Western and Japanese capitalism is minor to a certain extent. But
What
yeah,
kind of money you're spending, more or less.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you can look into any kind of bad guy in an anime, and like if they got blonde hair and they're overweight, then it's usually more on the American side.
Probably an American, yeah.
I mean, there's a show that nobody watched last year called Derrida that had a very overtly...
I watched that!
Like I said, only the cool people watched Derrida last year, and there was a bad guy who was also like this. He was kind of like a, slimy, blonde-haired, overweight business guy, like... Or for something even more modern, everybody watched the Green Eggs and Ham show on Netflix. That also had a bad guy who was overtly overweight business, no hair, blonde kind of individual. It's a thing.
Oh no,
now.
it's all just Donald Trump. God damn it.
This entire you thought we left him behind back in Home Alone 2. Ha ha ha, suckers! He came back.
Timely reference. What was this thing? Yes, Tyler's really good at playing this. He plays Hugh as just a real slime ball, and I think he really excels at that. I enjoyed him a lot. And I thought Tara and Skylar in playing Anne and Ende just had I agree with Roots. Like I liked their story arc. It was well done. It was sad because this is a noir story. A lot of times the people you want to win in the noir stories aren't the people who win in the noir stories. But I thought they both played their parts really well, and I liked that they were able to, have these characters have this arc during the episodes that they're in. It was really well done. I appreciate it. It's good stuff. Now, shall we go on to our next set of characters?
Yes.
So shining and bright. So, we have up next. We have a pair of very notable cyborgs who have. They're a land of contrasts, let's say, to quote every English essay you've ever bullshitted in your life.
What is pretentious? Well, according to the dictionary, pretension is the concept of stretching out a goddamn essay that I only wrote the night before to a complete 12 pages, double-sided, with 12-point font.
It's true. We have a big baddie and a big goodie, or so it seems. First up, we have Hayden Gondry. He is very famous in the world of No Guns Life because he is the first extended to ever go on a mass murdering rampage during an event known as what is it called? I didn't write it down. It's a big event, and he killed lots and lots of people, and he's been in jail ever since. He is extended criminal number 1. He is like 00001.
Yes, and he writes E30001 on all of his victims.
Because that's his
cell
number.
No, it's his cell number.
Yeah.
No, not his cell number.
Also,
Not his
he
cell-
wants
that.
everyone to know that he attended the first ever E3.
Yeah. Yes.
For a good time, call. And by good time, we mean he'll turn you into paste. So be careful who you're calling. He is bad news, and he recently broke out of jail because he was part of a military group who were among the first people to be turned into extendeds during the war. And he appears to be killing off all of his all the guys from his particular unit. The last of whom is, of course, Mega-Armed Tokisada, the golden hero of the extended, the most famous extended in the world, the noble hero of the war. Everybody likes Mega-Armed Tokisada, and he is such a nice man who has clearly never been up to anything suspicious in his entire life.
He stops to sign autographs for little children. He can't possibly be evil.
He can't. How can he be?
He is totally not a milkshake duck.
Nope, never.
Whoa.
Never.
I feel like that reference is going to need a citation.
Do we have predictions for these characters or no?
Mm-mm.
I do not.
Nope. All right. In that case, let's see. Gondry is being played by John Swayze, who you would know for such characters as he plays Daisuke Aramaki in Ghost in the Shell Arise. He plays Sir Crocodile in One Piece, and make a note of this, he plays All For One in My Hero Academia. Tokisada, on the other hand, is played by Christopher Sabat, who you know for such roles as Yusuke Saito in Darker Than Black, Armstrong in Full Metal Alchemist, and All Might in My Hero Academia.
Son of a bitch.
Wait.
I didn't see that until now. Son of a bitch.
Did anyone ever notice that All For One and One For All are never in the room at the same time?
Let it be said that the casting in this show is very good. So with that in mind, who would like to start off?
This is another instance of I wish that the show didn't discard its characters so soon after introducing them because not to spoil anything. Oh, what the hell! John Swayze's probably not gonna get better. So he does. I mean, you know, for the I do like this not this plot device, but this arc. This idea that cybernetic enhancements were were used by the military against people, and you know they did their job well. But I get the idea that if I'm reading the show correctly, that once they had done their job, that they were not properly compensated for basically giving up their humanity. I think there's a line that in Clayton's script about how they not only gave up their bodies, they gave up their dignity as well. So John's kind of encompassing that lost soul gone manic because of what he's become. Really good, kind of archetypal. I'm not really sure if he was going as crazy as I would have liked. Like I mean, just really, really over the top in terms of being a completely broken individual. But for what it was, for a character who dies not long after being introduced, it's pretty good on John. And then for Chris, it's very difficult to listen to Tokisada without thinking about All Might, because it's perpetual smile on his face, gold theme, and then we find out no, actually he is not so good after all. But he puts up a pretty good fight. And it does that thing in anime where he pulls out like his finishing blow, and then he starts laughing evilly about how Juzo, if only you hadn't wasted your energy fighting me, you could have lived. And then of course Juzo is actually okay, and then he beats Tokisada. So yeah, for these bit characters that delve into the very real world problem of the military taking away your humanity, good job on them. Good use of your Chris and your John.
Indeed. Roots?
Yeah, I really don't have much to say, because this is one of the more sizable arcs, but Gondry doesn't really get much to do in it.
What are you talking? He impersonates a little girl.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, but otherwise, I don't remember him getting very many speaking lines until toward the end of the arc. But I do like where John Swayze went with it. It definitely does have a very sizable air of menace. And yeah, he is definitely a scary antagonist, and I would not want to run into him in a dark alley. Because the two-head thing, kind of creepy.
Joke's on you. In this city, there are only dark alleys.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like that one U2 song, like, in this town where the streets have no lights.
So Tokisada, kind of a funny story as we were discussing episode 6 in the chat as it was airing. Chris Sabat was not initially announced as the character, and I I could have sworn it sounded like Jameson Price in that first episode. Maybe it's the filters that were applied. Maybe it was, just Chris Sabat playing a very charismatic character, which is something he gets to do more often than we give him credit for, but I've never heard him in a thing like this before. So, kudos for making me initially say when the casting announcement came out, bullshit, that's Chris Sabat.
Mm-hmm. Surprise.
Fooled you.
But I will say, as episodes 7 and 8 rolled around, I actually started to hear it, and he did a really great job with it. He, Tokisada has to have a lot of chutzpah and a lot of charisma, and Sabat gives him that in spades. So, thumbs up for these late arc. So thumbs up for these late arc antagonists.
I agree. I think, as Roots pointed out, John doesn't get to do too much as Gondry. Gondry spends a lot of his arc either not saying anything or being disguised as somebody else. But I did like his performance when it came up. This might sound weird, but I did like the part towards the end where he wakes up briefly, clearly not knowing what the fuck is going on. And I thought John Slazy did a good job of sounding like the same menacing character, but now it's he's the one who's confused and kind of at the mercy of everyone else. For as brief as that little section was.
Yeah.
And also I really look, I can't talk any shit about this casting joke. This is very spot on. Especially because I have a feel part of me thinks that when Chris Sabat got cast and he was in the recording booth and he's like, Kyle, what's his character's deal? And he's like, imagine if All Might had the same public persona, but he was just a rotten human being on the inside and just didn't let anyone know about it.
I can't be the only one who was watching at least through season 3 of My Hero Academia and fully expected him to become that person, because you just can't believe that anyone could be as good as he is.
He's just a good boy.
He is. You're right.
All Might's such a good boy.
That's in My Hero world, All Might gets to be the Superman, the guy who just is never he's always going to be the good one who's never going to give up until he just can't do it anymore. But this is the world where that character doesn't exist.
Right.
And it turns out that Superman is a shitbag.
Tokusada.
It's a noir story. Superman doesn't live in noir world. That's Batman's territory.
Tokusada doesn't kill people. Oh wait, he totally does.
Yeah, he definitely does.
That would be interesting. I'd love to tangent, but I'd love to see a Batman universe, but Superman is the star, and then a Superman universe, but Batman has to be the star, and like how they would adapt to taking the place of each other's respective roles. Bruce Wayne has to go to the Daily Planet and has to deal with the asshole boss who wants him to write a story, and then he has to save the day against Emperor Zod every day. But he can't be brooding about it.
I feel like there's probably an Elseworlds that covers something like that somewhere.
Yeah, you're right. There probably is.
That feels like the most basic of DC Elseworld plots.
I'm sure there's definitely an imaginary story where Superman's pod lands outside of Gotham and he gets adopted by the Waynes or something. That has to exist. There's no way that can't.
I have a hard time believing that the Waynes would be generous enough to adopt a stranger.
They're nice people.
Oh, yeah.
They're like the only nice people in all of fiction. The only nice rich people. It's them and maybe Scrooge McDuck.
Kind of depends on if you're talking the cartoon or you're talking the comics, the Carl Banks comics.
Whichever one validates my point.
All right, cartoon it is then. Scrooge McDuck can be a dick, but anyways.
But I think Chris plays this very well. as I'm sure playing 4 seasons of My Hero at this point has left him with he can do that. He can do the noble voice really well, and there's something fun. There's a warped fun to him using that tone of voice in the name of like, well, you found out the thing you shouldn't have found out. I'm gonna have to kill you now. It's nothing personal. It's I'm sad. We're not. As far as I can tell, we were not going to see this character anymore. He dead. But I liked him while he was on screen. It was a lot of fun.
Do you think they kept his statue?
As far as there's like I'll spoil a little because they reveal this in episode 9. None of this is getting public.
Oh.
He's still the shining hero in the eyes of the peoples.
Oh, so he's the Harvey Dent of this universe.
You're not wrong. Alright. So, with that, we shall continue on to our next set of characters. We have good guys again.
Yay!
They're pretty good. One of them's a little bit of a jerk, but he's a good dude in the end.
He is. He's a good boy.
He's a good boy. He's doing
He's a good body stealing boy.
Oh, that's not yet.
Oh. Alright, to start us off, we have Joylyn Cujo. I mean, Olivia Vanderburn.
Oh my god, you're right.
Look, this...
Is that a JoJo's reference?
You know what?
That is 100% a JoJo's reference, because she... This is interesting. I make no claims to be an expert, but outside of, deliberate fan art, this is maybe the first time I've ever seen a character outside of a JoJo's manga who actually looked like they're like a direct Araki reference visually like this. JoJo's the big influence, but it has very little in the way of direct knockoffs because no one's Araki. Only Araki is Araki.
That's not true. I've heard some music bands stole references from that show. And then they went back in time to before the manga actually existed.
You're funny. I like you, Noah. But yeah, so Olivia Vanderburn, who 100% looks like a JoJo's character for whatever reason. She is... Hold on. Sorry, I was so focused on making my stupid joke. Give me a second.
Which is funny.
It was more important.
Like, it's funny that she looks like a JoJo's character because the character designer for No Gun's Life is Masanori Shino, and he did not do any character designs for JoJo's, but he did do Terra for Mars, apparently, which is the other thing that Warner Brothers was trying to make a big thing, and it didn't end up being a big thing at all.
Yes. So we have Olivia, who is the head of the Reconstruction Agency, which is basically an agency that deals with extended problems and usually tries to police them to a certain extent to make sure they don't flip out and murder all the normal people, because it's what happens in this world. And we have one of her underlings, Cronin von Wolf.
Best name ever.
It's a great name. Who's just this angry, skinny guy who fights with needles and drives a very nice car, and he will kill you if you scratch the paint.
As he should.
It's a nice car.
No one appreciates vintage cars in this universe. Like that is something to be admired.
I 100% bet you most of the vintage cars were sold for scrap at some point during the war, and there's very few of them left.
Yes.
So if you can get your hands on one, you're probably gonna like it. But he's a mean man, but he gets the job done. So we enjoy him at the very least. I'm assuming no predictions for these two?
No, unfortunately.
All right. Excuse me. All right. In that case, Olivia is played by Marissa Lenti, who you would know for such roles as Madoka in Chio's School Road, Sumire Unikai in Real Life, and she plays Sayako Nogami in City Hunter Shinjuku Private Eyes, where you can hear in that whenever that gets a home video release somewhere, because it's not readily available as far as I know right now. And Cronin is played by John Bergmeyer, who you know for playing Seiichi Kirima in Boogie Pop and Others, Shiguri Soma in Fruits Basket, and, of course, he's Kurama in Yu Yu Hakusho.
That's the important one.
Look, I have multiple friends who had a big old crush on Kurama when they were young, and there's no question in my mind that John is a big reason why.
Who didn't?
Everybody
Have you seen him?
who was into anime in the early to mid 2000s has a friend who, male
I love
or
how you
female,
dodged. Not me.
had a crush on Yoko Kurama, particularly the Yoko Kurama form.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Was it the whip guy or the white-haired demon guy? There's a big difference.
It could be both. Get yourself a man who could do both, man.
I still have to...
Besides, John Bergmeyer just very confusedly stating nerd violence is one of the best deliveries in the history of voice acting, so great choice. Anyways, what did we think of these performances, gentlemen?
Well, I thought that JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is getting way too pervasive in the anime culture. I really should watch it at some point. Because, yeah, having seen nothing but the first episode of the very first season, and still being able to pick up that the full-lipped woman was a very, very overt JoJo's references, very indicative of how pervasive that is in society, or at least in the anime society. I don't think your average person would recognize it, but in this show, we recognized it. And Marissa's performance is... I really wanted to judge her voice acting objectively, but when you introduce a character with the camera solely on her cleavage and saxophone playing in the background, it's entirely going to paint the image that this is supposed to be a sultry character. It doesn't matter if she has like a nasally high-pitched voice or if she sounds like Don Cheadle. It doesn't matter. If that's how you introduce your character, that's how I'm going to view them. I don't know why I picked Don Cheadle. That's just the first name that came to mind.
You made me laugh.
But to give Marissa full credit, because she absolutely does, she gives Olivia she gives her a sultrier voice. She's got long syllables and more breath in the sounds to kind of elicit an older woman voice, which is a good contrast to characters like Scarlet or Mary, who we'll talk about in a bit. And she has a lot of exposition. There's a lot of just talking about like what her position is, or how she's supposed to take Juzo into custody, or this is the favor that I want you to do, Juzo. I want you to hunt these guys down for me because they escaped. And in all of her talking, Marissa goes through all of the highs and lows of the emotions of this character, who is obviously supposed to be like a girl boss character, which is difficult to take seriously if you don't believe that she's in charge. And I do buy from Marissa's performance that Olivier knows how to get this job done, knows a lot about the Extended. I almost said the Expendables, but that's a completely different movie. Knows about the Extended and is very capable of leading them, even though they try to fire her at one point in the show. That doesn't go well because she knows how to do her job well. So yeah, Marissa, good job on this one. This again ties into that you have to have palatable character voices to go with this alien world, and Marissa does that really well. John Bergmeyer's a little more conventional because he doesn't have as much exposition in terms of dialogue up to episode 8 so far, but he's got a cool voice effect to him. It's not like they mechanically or digitally altered his voice, but he's got a bit of a rasp when he's speaking. It's not just John in the recording studio and just talking like he would at the Burger King drive-thru. He sounds like he's very clearly put on an intentional bit of a rasp, and almost like he's kind of short of breath when he's speaking. I think the idea is to kind of elicit the idea that he's a bit of an older individual, and that he's experienced in his pin bending, whatever you want to call it, where you basically can deactivate people with little pins. What's that thing called? Acupuncture. That's it. He's the acupuncture bender of the show. But I do like that little vocal quirk that he gives Cronin von Wolf, which is my Ramen Sign cover band. So I like what he does with it, and he has not died yet, so I hope we'll see more of him in the future.
Well, give it time, Noah.
Don't say that.
All right, Roots.
Yeah, so I'll start with Marissa Lenny as well. Largely because I agree with Noah on just about all the points he made. I do want to add sort of an addendum that there is one particular scene I very much enjoyed, and that came out of episode 8, where she is absolutely grilling Tokisada about what happened to her father. During the aforementioned incident where Gondry went nuts and killed everybody, but he didn't. He was just kind of scapegoated. Yeah, I like that Marissa Lenny played her with kind of a smoky, sultry voice. It fit the character design very well, and all around a good performance. John Bergmeyer as Cronin von Wolf. Also largely agree with Noah on his points. He too gives Cronin a sort of a smoky, huskier voice than I'm used to hearing come out of him, which was an absolute delight. And the story arc of Gondry and Tokisada, another high point for this character as well, because he not only actually gets to do stuff that actually has like plot relevance, but he it exposes his sort of the character's flaws, I guess, in a way. He's very nose to the grindstone, everything to the book, and that sort of gets played against him when he has to fight against these two extended. So, kudos to the both of them. They gave really solid performances.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I like Marissa a lot in this role. Olivia is not quite the... In terms of her role in the story, she is not quite a femme fatale, but that feels like that's definitely the noir character type her character is drawing on. Certainly in terms of like visual design, a little bit in personality. And I like that Marissa is able to have that aspect of the character, but also have it make sense for what she actually is in the world, where she's like this authority figure who's, she needs to get Junzo to do things, but she is empathetic to what he's going through and what his needs are and so on. I also really like the segment in episode 8 where she's like grilling Tokisada on what's happening, and that whole bit where she like breathes the smoke into Junzo's mouth so he can get his shit going again. I also because I'm stupid, I also find it very amusing that she apparently like smells really stinky cat food as sort of a relaxant.
Oh yeah,
which is just a nice weird touch, I guess. It's like, all right, sure. And I think Marissa sells that really well as like, she's doing this voluntarily and it's not pleasant maybe, but she's gonna keep doing it.
It is. I don't know what the equivalent would be, like if that was supposed to be like some sort of like a cocaine reference, but they like PG'd it up for TV broadcast.
Well, they establish, I think, that the can is this can was originally, I think, like something, a gift her father was going to bring back when he came back when he was supposed to come back from investigating this outpost that ended up being where the massacre he died in happened.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's partially sentimental and also partially just like, here's a weird gag. Because it's a weird show. I guess you could probably read it as like, this is what she does instead of like drink too much. That's her version of a flask.
Yeah, see that's what I thought at first, was this idea that we can't have the really hard stuff from noir. We can't have heavy drinking. We can't have heavy drug use. But we can have sniffing cat food and surgical implants with machinery.
It's true. And smoking, lots of smoking, so much smoking.
But we approve of that in Japan.
I mean, they do still have smoking sections in restaurants. You're not wrong.
What they do.
What else? And I liked her performance a lot. I thought she was a lot of fun. And I always love it when John Bergmeyer shows up in something. He's probably one of my favorite actors at Funimation, and he's not in nearly enough because he spends way too much time being the lead writer on things, which is not a complaint. You're also a wonderful writer, John. You're such a wonderful actor. It's so nice to hear you and things. And I like him a lot in this. I feel like he very much nails what feels like Cronin is very like not quite soft, but he's clearly like he seems very refined. He's dressed very well, but he's still kind of a hard ass and clearly is very much like no, we do things by the book. We don't futz around. Not like you, Mr. Gunhead PI man. We're not like you. We have rules we have to follow. And I think he sells that well in his performance. But he sounds very, very dignified, but he has that rasp in his voice that I think stops him from feeling too much kind of like he's not a staid aristocrat. He's someone who does get his hands dirty in the line of duty.
Good point.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed his performance a lot. I thought he was very good here. And unless we have any other thoughts, onto our next section.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting into the main characters now. The people who show up in almost every episode. Yeah.
You can tell they're the lead characters because they show up at the beginning of the intro.
It's true. All right, we have our main characters, the people who this whole shebang is about, because you need main characters in a story. You can try and get around it, but then you just end up with a lot of weird art cinema that may or may not be unwatchable.
This is not the Red Balloon.
No. That'd be a twist. Just have 2 episodes are just a remake of the Red Balloon in the No Guns Life universe.
Except it's a blimp.
The Red Blimp. The Red Blimp Part 1 and the Red Blimp Part 2. For our main characters, we have 3 of them. We have Mary Steinberg, who's an engineer. She does maintenance on Extended. She spends a lot of time kind of working in, dumpy neighborhoods, helping out people who can't really afford, the proper equipment because it's way out of their price range. She's a friend to Juzo. She works on his stuff too occasionally. She's a nice lady, even if she sometimes doesn't have a lot of patience for other people. We also have Tetsuro Arahamaki, who starts all this trouble. He is let me see. He is in fact the son of the CEO of the Brewing Corporation, but for whatever reason he was made new guinea pig for Extended experiments because
corporations are not your friend.
You can literally be blood relative of the most powerful person in the whole thing. That will not save you. They will eat you alive still.
That is true.
Yeah. Consequently, he had a bunch of his stuff replaced with extended parts. Most notably, he had a thing called Harmony installed in him, which is basically a thing that exists for his vocal cords should be that allows him to take control of other Extended. Which is part of the reason why the Brewing Corporation wants him back, because they don't want him running around getting up to God knows what off their, not on their watch.
I mean, he's a teenager. What do you expect him to do?
Hey guys, I got a great idea. Let's take all this multi-million-dollar equipment and put it in the body of a hormonal teenage boy. Nothing will go wrong at all.
Nope. Definitely not.
Meanwhile, he's
so basically
like muscle cars and
Yep. Yeah, so he eventually escapes by hijacking another robot's body and just carrying his unconscious self out.
It's so cool.
It's great.
I do have to confess, when we were putting together the cast list here, I thought Mega Arm Tokisada was the cyborg character from the first episode.
That's understandable. There's a lot of robots in this.
That's true.
Some of them are easier to keep track of others. Not all of them have a gun for a head to make them really recognizable. And rounding out our main crew, we of course have Juzo Inui. He is an Extended. He has a gun for a head. He has absolutely no memory of how he ended up like this. So he does PI work in the city these days and wears tight pants. and
smokes.
He'll help. And he smokes a lot because it's the only thing that stops him from going just... I realize Juzo's not nice, but he does right. What's that meme? Aren't you tired of being nice? Don't you just want to go ape shit?
yeah.
And if you don't give him the smokes, that is exactly what he's going to do. But for now, he helps the downtrodden if they have the cash for it, or if he feels like doing it sometimes. So did we have predictions for these 3? Gentlemen.
I just had one for Juzo.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically went for the most boilerplate actor I could find who could do the sort of deepish voice, because if I recall correctly, the guy who plays Juzo in the Japanese is the same guy who plays Dio.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
No, I actually didn't go there. I
Oh.
went for an even deeper dive.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
I went into my old prediction lists.
Uh-huh.
And I pulled up a list of actors who I thought would be in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure dub if Funimation had dubbed it. Because this is 2014.
Wow. That was a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, and it was right after Crunchyroll had announced they got JoJo. So I figured, you know what, this might be one of those big things that Funimation and Crunchyroll shared. Didn't end up happening, but at least that prediction list helped me put Brandon Potter as the voice of Juzo Inui.
Oh.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
You know, he does have that tough but nice underbelly voice to him. So I could definitely picture Karima. Is it the guy from School Rumble playing Juzo? My prediction.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
My prediction for Juzo was Clint Eastwood. Was that too obvious? Hey, Mr. Eastwood. Yes,
Did I
this
fire
is
6 shots out of my head or only 5? Let me ask you, do you feel lucky, punk?
So, hi, Mr. Eastwood. This is a small dubbing studio in Texas, dubbing Japanese cartoons. Yes, and we make cartoons. Yes, cartoons. And we were wondering, we know that you're a big multi-million-dollar director, producer, actor, but would you be willing to voice this weird gun-headed character for our show?
Sir,
We can't pay you very much.
Sir? He hung up.
Hello? Oh, damn it. I guess we gotta go. We gotta go to our plan B. All right. Who's got Steven Seagal's number?
Oh! Oh!
Yes, we are that desperate.
That's a deep cut.
Ooh. Yow.
I have nothing against the man. I've only seen one movie he's in. He's alright.
I thought we wanted this to be good.
Well, speaking, did we get good actors for this?
I think so. But I also do you have another prediction or just Clint Eastwood?
No, I have no prediction. Don't put an image on
Alright.
the screen.
I won't. I had predictions for all 3 of these characters. For Tetsuro, I thought Maxie Whitehead would be fun here. As I like Maxie, and also, as we noted, this show takes a certain takes a little bit of an influence from Full Metal Alchemist. We have Juzo's chibi face.
Mm-hmm.
We have the fact that the mangaka has clearly taken to heart that advice that the author of Full Metal Alchemist once made, which is that men should be buff, women should be vavoom. So, I thought that would work. Turn on. I need my notes. How can I read off my notes that I don't remember because I made them like 2 months ago?
Let this be a note to all you people. Print out or write out your predictions ahead of time.
It's true. For Mary, I thought Colleen Clinkenbeard would be fun here.
Mm-hmm.
And for Juzo, I had a Colossal Long Shot and I had a likely one. The Colossal Long Shot was early this year. I watched Boogie Pop and Others, which had one episode that had J. Michael Tatum playing a fun PI character. And it led me to want him to see him play a PI in something else. However, I think the odds of him playing Juzo seem pretty unlikely because he doesn't quite have that quality to play a character who's literally a gun. So I thought a more likely answer would probably be Ian Sinclair, who I thought could probably play a character who is literally a gun. A little better than that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was not correct on any of these.
And for good reason.
For good reason.
As we'll talk about.
For Mary Steinberg, we have Kylie Stewart, who doesn't have a lot of credits to her name. As far as name roles go, she played Mitsuki Ichijo in Yuno. She played Momo in Demon Lord Retry, And according to ANN, she's played a lot of unnamed background characters in Fruits Basket 2019. Just a lot of unnamed background characters. However, going on that, Tetsuro is being played by Caleb Yen, who also, according to ANN, he is very new. He has played some unnamed roles in Black Clover and Stars Align. Oh. And he has also played male townsperson 13C in Fairy Gone. Which, according to ANN, is the only named role he has outside of Tetsuro. So
I hear they're making a Funko Pop for that character.
I know. Right? I'm really proud of him.
For the Nendoroid,
you know?
if we're being honest.
I mean, we all are, but you
take what you can get.
They never make. I know you never get the Nendoroids, the ones you want, right? Or you do, but like it's you can't afford it, and you miss the pre-order window.
It sounds a little too honest. Do you speak from experience, Amon?
No. I don't know what you're talking about. And for Juzo, he's being played by Chris Ryan, who you know for such roles as Totomi in Assassination Classroom, Kubard in Heroic Legend of Arslan, and Okurikara in Tokenrambu Hanamaru. So, gentlemen, what did we think of our leads in this show? No, if you'd like to start us off.
I would like to start out by talking about Caleb's performance as Tetsuro because, you mentioned at the beginning, Roots, how the sound mixing for the show is very good, which it is. And this is a character who could have been the most botched in terms of execution because Tetsuro never speaks out of his own mouth. The way that his harmony power works, he has to have a receptor, like either a radio or another robot with vocal capabilities. So every time that Caleb speaks, they use a slight echo effect to amplify that voice box aspect of it, and it sounds really good. It's not distracting. It's not Microsoft Sam monotone speaking kind of voice, but it does plant us very firmly in the robotic world that we live in. So I want to give full props to the voice acting department on that because they did a good job, and there's no way that the average person is going to go out of their way to say, yeah, I like the audio engineering work. No, you audio engineers, good job, guys. Excellent work. As for Caleb's actual acting, it's pretty good. It's a younger teen voice that's kind of on the cusp of finishing puberty. Like, I get the feeling that it sounds very much like someone who has not quite finished going through puberty just yet. And that plays up to his personality because he's a very underdeveloped individual. Tetsuro has this power that he can't quite control yet, and he doesn't know how to use it well either. And I mean that in more of like a moral sense. You don't hijack your best friend's body to escape from them. I'm sure you could, and sure you could do a lot of stuff for the better because you're anti-children being used as robot experiments, but you gotta be smarter about it. In the words of Scrooge McDuck, work smarter, not harder, kid. So I really like Caleb's. I really like his more sensitive voice, and I also like that he can be shrill as well. There's bits where he's very taken aback by what's going on, and he handles all of those ranges very well. I don't really have a qualm with anything, so I do hope that we hear Caleb in more stuff outside of just the background characters and Walla coming up in the future, because he handles this very well. Same thing with Kylie, in that I have not heard her in very much, and by very much I mean nothing before. And Mary was it could have been handled the same way that Caitlin handled her character in Full Metal Alchemist. It could have been that same nice girl next door voice to her. But Kylie gives her a lot of warmth, definitely, but she's also really tough and straight to the point when she's speaking. This is the kind of person that you think knows how to handle robotics very well, which she does. And yeah, she takes no shit from anyone, especially when the dad went to a back alley operation. Don't do that. If you're going to get your daughter the cybernetic implants, just go for the insured stuff, please. Many families have been broken apart by back alley operations for robot parts in the past. Please don't be one of the statistics. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, Mary is a fun character that I'm glad keeps sticking around And I do like the fact that she's not a snarker. Like, she's not really making quips all the time and, like, trying to bring people down a peg. She's very just straight and to the point and points out when people do things wrong, but in a way that shows that she wants them to do the right thing. And it acts as a good contrast to both Juzo's toughness and Tetsuro's absolute teenage idiocy. So, yeah, Mary is a very good character, and I want to hear more of Kylie in future stuff, because I like how she handled this. So, Chris Ryan, he sounds like he's got, he's got some gravel in the back of the voice, but it's otherwise it's a soft voice. It's, because he never gets overly angry in the show. He never, he's not so, 3 o'clock in the morning, super tough like this, I want to burn the world down kind of voice. It's a terrible impression, I apologize, but there's a lot of, like, there's a natural gravel to it. It's like he can't speak in any other way. And they don't give him a voice effect. They don't give him some kind of, I don't know how you would make a gun talk, but they don't try to give him a gun voice effect, whatever that would even sound like. He sounds like a relatively normal dude with just a very interesting character design. It's like, it's like you've seen Batman Beyond before. You've seen that episode called Splicers, where characters were getting animal implants and becoming animal-human hybrids, and it was just treated like tattoos, basically. It's like that. It's just a tattoo that he got, except he can fire a gun. And he's a gun now. And he's a cool character. Someone take the microphone from me.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the big thing that we need to note here is that two of the actors we're talking about now, as I hinted at when we were talking about the director and scriptwriters, is brand new for the most part. Like Walla roles and like unnamed characters aside, like these are more or less some of the first big, like, bolded on ANN character roles that Kylie Stewart and Caleb Yen are playing for Funimation, or in general, unless there's something missing, the anime industry as a whole.
Well, I mean, we could. There's a good chance that maybe they have some theater experience in the past, but we don't have a way to, to catalog that. Yeah. Like
theater, video games in the Dallas area, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, if they are entrusted with a major role in a Funimation dub, they have probably put in a lot of work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that you don't normally take someone who hasn't had some experience and put them in a lead role. Unless it's 1996 and you're Funimation and you're casting Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
That's kind of the exception that proves the rule, though.
Like, even then, I think a bunch of them were still theater people, so...
That's true. The only instance I can think of someone who, like, went into voice acting with almost no experience is, like, Steve Bloom. And even then, he had audio engineering experience before that.
Yeah. But I think both Kylie Stewart and Caleb Yen did a really good job with their designated roles. Like, Mary Steinberg is kind of the tough as nails engineer character. She cares enough to fix people up when their cybernetic operations get botched, but she's also not afraid to knock some sense into the people she knows. And I think Kylie Stewart gets that across really well. Tetsuro is he's just a teenage kid who's been given this almost godlike power. And I think Caleb Yen does a really good job sort of playing the angle of trying to figure out the morality of having such a power and whether or not being a kid with such a power is a good idea. Like, I really like that. And Chris Ryan as Juzo, I honestly wish I had thought of that when I was writing out my prediction. Like, he gives Juzo such a, like, the right amount of gravel to his voice, like Noah was mentioning. But he also balances the hard-boiled side of the character and the sort of comedic, he turns chibi side. Which is, like, there is a way to do that doesn't sound like absolute tonal whiplash, and there is a way that absolutely does, and thankfully, Chris Ryan found the former instead of the latter. It does not feel jarring at all if he is, you know, speaking in his low register, like, reading clues off, and then all of a sudden, he gets flustered by something, and just, all of a sudden, like, and it doesn't feel like Chris Ryan skipped a beat at all. It's great. Like, all three of these performances are really good, and I hope to hear Caleb and Kylie in more roles in the future.
I think it's a definite. They will star in the upcoming Chainsaw Man anime coming soon.
That we hope is coming.
That
Make my dreams come true, anime gods. Don't do this to me.
Now, which studio would make it? I wouldn't put it to Gainax. No, I wouldn't put it, or to Trigger.
I mean, Gainax barely exists anyway.
I'm sorry,
so
I meant
no.
to say Trigger, because
Yeah,
you're right. Gainax does not exist anymore. I don't. Maybe it's. Oh! I got it. The studio that made Handshakers.
Get out.
Go Hands should make the Chainsaw
See-
Man anime.
See, you joke, but there is a very small part of me that wants it to be given to somebody who's going to make a real junk piece of B-pulp.
Yes, exactly.
Not because it'd be good, just because I would enjoy it.
But yes, you and 10 other people on this planet would absolutely love it.
The entire audience for the Chainsaw anime, it's just me, Minovsky, and my friend Zach talking about it on Twitter. And it's like, it looks like trash, but I'm having fun. Oh. Anyways, also I've realized that I forgot to make my joke prediction for Juzo, and I'm very disappointed in myself. But oh well.
You can say and edit it in.
I don't know. The moment is lost.
Aww. All right, fine. You don't have to put this in, but I want to know who it was now.
I was gonna suggest that he should. Clearly, he's an oddball PI. And if you have an oddball PI, there's clearly only one possible choice. Elliot Gould circa 1973 when he was in The Long Goodbye. Sadly, it is not 1973. And Elliot Gould sounds way too old now.
Don't remind me. I wish it was 1973. You know, before all this deregulation happened in the 80s, and, you know, people got way more money than they should have, and somebody had a fighting chance.
Oh, the pre-Reagan years. They were a fun time.
I assume.
Yeah, me too, right?
And just think, in 4 more years, Star Wars comes out.
Something to look forward to. But on to the task at hand. No, I enjoy these. I'm enjoying these roles a lot. I thought Kylie did a really good job as Mary. I agree. I think she is kind of a nice contrast to Scarlet, where Scarlet feels very innocent. Mary has kind of a similar quality, but she's clearly somebody who's had to be more worldly. She has had to deal with a lot of the grimier aspects of existence already. And that's very reflected in her character and her performance. I like that she feels like a little bit of a, not a complete moral compass for Juzo, but she is very much the person who will, like, not tolerate his bullshit when he's putting it out and be like, no, just do the right thing. It's not that hard. Which I do appreciate. I think she's very entertaining like that. Excuse me. I also really enjoy Caleb as Tetsuro. I think he does a good job of making him feel like the youthful quality comes through very well. Especially, I think as we were talking with regards to, like, he he'll use harmony in questionable ways, but it never feels like there's, like, kind of, it's not like kind of malicious, or it seems almost like he doesn't. he understands what he's doing isn't right, but he feels like there's an exception here. It's okay in this scenario. And I think there's something interesting to be had about that, and I think it's gonna. I feel like the show is gonna keep playing with that as it goes forward, and I like that. And it's fun to hear such a relatively, I don't want to say green, because obviously he does have some acting experience under his belt, but like such a newer actor be given such a prominent role for both these actors and do so well in them. I'd actually note that among the characters we did not talk about, there are some newer characters introduced recently, Pepper and Seven, who are another. Some more lackeys of the Bruin Corps, and they are also played by actors who have very few credits to their name currently. I know the actress playing Pepper, Mariana Bay, I think has been acting for a little bit longer, although she doesn't have as many credits on ANN. But the actor for Seven, Kimmy Britt, is much like Caleb, has mostly done sort of like unnamed Walla roles with a single named role to her name at this point. So this is a trend in the show, which I appreciate. I think it's fun to hear this. And it's good to see these newer actors getting to play these fairly meaty roles, and I think do a very good job at them. But now onto the star of our show, Chris Ryan as Juzo. I enjoy Juzo, and I partially enjoy him for a really dumb reason, which is that the way Chris plays him, I don't think this is intentional. I think this might just be a coincidence. But the main thing he reminds me of a little bit is because he has a little bit of a nasal quality to his performance, and it reminds me a little bit of a movie called Strange Days, which is a movie that me and my friend John have tried to watch at least twice and completely failed, because he sounds like the lead character, who's played by Ralph Fiennes. The problem is Ralph Fiennes tries to play it with an American accent, which he does not have, and as a consequence, the entire time he's trying to be serious, it just sounds like he's doing a Jack Nicholson impression. Which I find appropriate because Jack Nicholson has been the star in a noir movie, which he is very good in. And I don't think that's intentional here, but I did think that was a fun bit of synchronicity.
Well, I mean, does Batman really count as a noir movie?
That one, no.
I'm assuming that's not the movie you were thinking of, but when I hear noir and Jack Nicholson, that's immediately what I think of.
No, he's the lead in Chinatown, which I think he's very good in, even if that's like the most depressing noir movie ever made, because no one you like wins. and the only person who gets what he wants is the most reprehensible character in the entire movie. It's kind of a bummer.
What happened to the happy noir movies?
Happy?
Yeah, those, where like, good and friendship triumphs over evil, and then the whole world turns color at the end of it.
Like Rango?
All right, Noah, I hate to be the one to break this to you, but I regret to inform you that Who Framed Roger Rabbit, while a noir, is not very indicative of the genre as a whole.
You're kidding. You're shitting me.
I am dead serious. It is a wonderful noir movie, but it is very unindicative of the genre in general.
I went this entire podcast thinking I had the noir genre nailed down, and you're telling me that my whole life has been a lie.
I'm not going to say your whole life. If you're only going to watch one noir, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is an excellent choice.
And that's a movie with a British guy doing an actually good American accent.
Look, I think I brought this up before. For years, I assumed Bob Hoskins was from Brooklyn.
I don't blame you. I've only seen him in things where he had an American accent.
Oh, so you've also only seen him in Roger Rabbit and Mario Brothers?
and Hook. And Hook.
Ah, he's in Hook too, isn't he?
Yeah, is he?
Bob Hoskins, confusing 90s children since 1985.
Rest in peace, man.
Anyways, yeah, rest in peace. Now that I've got off of my tangent, I like Chris Ryan on this a lot. I think he's very good. I think he nails the hard-boiled detective aspect of it very well. I think he handles the exposition stuff really well. But I think there's also like a lightness to him. Like, this is a character who can crack jokes. He's not just like, I think with, poorly written noir characters could just be kind of like grim brooding machines if they're not written well. And I think this character isn't written like that, but I think Chris also avoids the trap of trying to play him like that. I think he feels well-rounded. He feels like an actual person, even among all his sort of, staring out the window, smoking, ruminating on the horribleness of life. I'm really happy he's in this. I think he does a wonderful job. kudos to him. Like, this is. I haven't seen everything he's been in, obviously, but I think at the moment, like, this is my favorite thing he's been in. I've been really happy with it. Mm-hmm. On that note, would we like to move over to our final thoughts?
Please.
Absolutely. We're down to my final cigarette.
Ah, I see. Noah, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so let me take a deep drag here. I started this show while it was raining outside. It's always raining here in Michigan. And finally, I came to the realization, this is a really weird show, and I absolutely love that you can only get this from anime. Because, so I don't know what the thought process was for the mangaka's creation of this, because I like to try to think, like, what was the process for making anything. Like, a slice of life show with weird characters, I think, like, it's just kind of autobiographical. Or, a titty time harem show. Horny guy wants lots of women in his life, and that's easy to interpret. This, I don't quite know what the subtext for it was. And the manga started back in 2014, so I'm not sure what was going on in Japan around that time. But whatever it was, I'm glad that we got this, like we said before, this noir cyberpunk hybrid that doesn't feel the need to spend so much time explaining like what it's like to have a gun for a head. Like, do you get headaches a lot, or do you get gun head in the morning? Like, what is that? Like, no, the fun part of it is the characters bouncing off of each other in this corporations are evil storyline. And although I don't like how they discard some of the characters quicker than I feel they should, the overall presentation of it is indeed a lot of fun episode to episode, and so much so that I hope more people will pick up on the politics of it, because there's some very not so subtle politics in all of this, and for the dubcast to bring that to English in a way that does not feel like there was a Japanese track to begin with is exactly what you should be looking for in an English dub. They convey the dialogue very well. The quips are good. The characters sound distinct from one another so that they bounce off each other really well. The audio engineering is very good on this. And while it may not be my favorite show of this season, which we will talk about that show in a future episode, it is indeed the biggest surprise of the season, because I had no idea what it was going into it. I only watched it because these guys recommended it. And I'm glad that they did, because now I have a lot of interesting things to chew on with a whole lot of violence every week. So thank you guys. Thank you, Hardy, who's not here, but we miss him. Thank you, Amon, and thank you, Roots.
Mm-hmm.
So, Roots.
So, this show is, at the moment, playing kind of a precarious balancing game, where it is cyberpunk, it's neo-noir, it's it has funny moments in it. And so far it's actually playing that pretty well. At the moment we have like loosely broken up story arcs, and I get the feeling that by the time the second core rolls around in April, it'll probably move to a bigger overarching story.
Yeah, I would hope.
But for now, at this point in time, it is a good introduction to our main cast and a bunch of other people who are probably going to show up more often. I don't know. Would be nice, but I'm not fully expecting more than like the core cast. The dub is really great, and there are a bunch of new names that I hope will get to do a lot more work at Funimation or beyond in the future. So yeah, this is a really good show. I recommend it. Stellar dub. Bunch of good people working on it. So, yeah. Give it a little bit of your time. See if you like it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. This might be my favorite show that I watched this season. Which, I mean, if you know my taste in fiction, this is not a terribly surprising opinion. It's like, what, Amon like the noir show about the robot with a gun for a head? Oh man, next you're gonna tell me you like certain prog rock bands from the 70s. What madness is this? But thankfully this is not just a show that I can enjoy because it's a bunch of tropes I like all mashed together and can kind of just get on that alone without regards to quality. I'm really enjoying this show. It's really well done. I think the anime part is executed. I think the dub is really well done. I think it matches the quality of the show. I think it's been very well cast. I like the writing and direction a lot. Like, I had a lot of fun with this, and I feel like this could easily be a very, very niche show just because of what's it about and how it presents itself. And I think it does a good job of actually being more accessible than it could be. And I think the dub helps with that a lot. I think I think it does a good job of emphasizing the, if not fun in sort of, wacky, silly way, at least the fun and like, these are the parts that are exciting and you don't, you can think about the political aspect, but you also go watch a robot with a gun for a head go beat people up. You can do that. You don't need to. If you don't want to think super hard for that episode, you don't have to worry about it too much. They'll still be fun for you.
I mean, they do cut some. They do cut out some of the subtlety by having things like he has to trust someone to pull his trigger. It's like, what is that symbolic of? It's a little too kind of going over my head, man.
You're not wrong. Yeah, I'm enjoying this show a lot. I think it's a lot. It's great. I'm glad that this particular season will be wrapping up soon, but I'm glad we know it's coming back in April. And I hope we get to watch more of it after that too. I'm enjoying it.
Good.
All right. So. If you would like to watch No Guns Life, you can currently watch it streaming, dubbed or subbed on Funimation. I believe you can watch the first, 3 or 4 episodes for free with ads, but if you'd like to watch beyond that, you will need a Funimation account, which I think is at $7.99 a month. But if you do sign up, you can sign up for a 14-day free trial, so you can watch as much as you want on there for free. Do note you will have to give your credit card information, and you will be charged at the end of that 14-day period. But, you might find at that point that, like, hey, having all this anime available to me for, $8 a month? That's pretty great. I might keep going with that. If you would like even more No Guns Life, the original manga by Tasuko Karasuma has been released by Viz Media in their signature labels, so you get a nice little oversized version. It's a little bigger than a usual manga volume. So far, there are 2 volumes out. I think the next one is supposed to come out in February, March, something like that. So if you can look at it and look at Karasuma's pretty art, which is a little rougher and wispier than what the show has, and I think it's a nice. It adapts it pretty closely, but I think it's a nice version of the story regardless.
Yeah, the artwork they did on it is pretty close to them. As close as I think we could get to the manga, considering the restrictions of how difficult some of these characters are to draw.
No, I think it's for given that these have to move and so on. I think this is a pretty good approximation of his art style. I think that's very well done. We would like to extend a thanks to our patrons. If you go to our Patreon and donate money to us, you can get your name read off on the podcast and also help support us make this wonderful show. Because unfortunately, we all live in a society and need to have full-time jobs and crap and can't spend as much time on this as we'd like to. But with your support, we can spend a little more time on it than we would otherwise, and we thank you for that. We'd like to thank our contributors at the $5 tier, which is Crimson Echidna, Michelle Travis, and Nico Robin, but with Yowie hands.
Thank you, Jackson.
Horrifying image. Thank you for that terrifying image, Jackson. And at the $10 tier, we'd like to thank Carly Lesticount, Jacob Wilson, J2, a.k.a. Jared, Marco Bermudez, Marissa Lenti. Thank you, Marissa.
Love you. Marissa.
And Weeby. Gentlemen, where can people find you on the internet?
So you can follow me on Twitter at NoahClue. Usually my feed is discussions of animation from around the world, because more countries than Japan and America make cartoons, man. They've been making them for a long time. I know it's hard to believe, but yep, Czechoslovakia, Russia, Lithuania, Australia, Antarctica. Okay, not Antarctica, but most countries have made cartoons around the world. Seek them out. Live life, man. Live life. And I want to give a huge thanks to Amon for a Christmas present this year, which featured some of the very first Japanese anime ever made from back in the 1920s and 30s. It's really awesome catalog of that, and I want to say thank you very much for that, man. You're awesome Secret Santa.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it.
So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay. So you can find me on the twitter.com at Roots of Justice, where I mainly just retweet cute animal pics. I've been talking a lot of Star Wars lately with The Mandalorian. Yeah, fun time. Come hang out. I'm okay. I'm pretty chill.
So you would recommend The Mandalorian?
Oh, hell yes, I do.
I wasn't quite sure.
I also have a blog that I will probably start writing reviews for, like, soonish, so keep an eye on that. Probably.
And if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at AmonDuelUS. Duel has 2 U's in it. Yes, the handle is Lucifer Hunklehead. You read that right. That's me. I have a werewolf for an avatar right now because I got a commission for Halloween, and it's like, this is a Merry Anger drawing. I can't have that on for 1 month of the year. Gotta keep using that. So for now, I'm a werewolf on Twitter until I change my mind. And if you follow me there, you'll hear me talk about music and movies, and I talk about comic books I read at the store, and we'll be a one-man machine for DC's new horror imprint because I like everything they put out by that so far, which is impressive. And I have a dusty old song for you all.
Yay!
Woohoo!
This is a tricky one because my first thought was like, noir thing, but there aren't really noir bands per se. They're bands with noirish songs, but that's very case by case. The closest to like kind of a band with that mood would be some of Wall of Voodoo's stuff, like Lost Weekend. Basically any of their stuff that doesn't feel like it's trying to be a Sergio Leone movie, which is fun, but not to everyone's taste. So I decided to go the other way and pick a song with guns in the title that I enjoyed. So my pick for Dusty Old Song for this episode is With a Gun by the -5, which I think is actually about a bad relationship that you probably should not be in anymore. But you can dance to it, and it's got a catchy tune. You can whistle. You can whistle it while you're sweeping. That's important.
Is that a more recent song or older?
Oh, from like the early 2000s, I want to say, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, old and dusty is a relative term.
We're coming up on 2020 here.
Loop.
Time is an illusion. Lunchtime doubly so.
Well, if that's the case, then we've been recording since tomorrow.
Oh, no. This episode's going to be way too long.
It just never ends. Go ahead and hit that repeat button.
Just get stuck in a loop somewhere. And with that, do we have any final notes, gentlemen?
Make sure that you get your gun cleaned and oiled on a regular basis. And corporations are not your friend. Don't give them your information. Don't like them on Facebook. Don't give them anything you don't have to.
Only you can stop brand Twitter from doing that all the time. Make the brand stop.
But Arby's makes such cool cardboard cutout cartoon characters. How can I not give that a like?
I wish all the other brands were as well behaved as Arby's. If Arby's was as bad as it got, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But no. No, we have to have what's something you can say while you're having sex and while you're watching Netflix. And then the rest of them have to pick up on it. What hellscape is this?
The one where you've still got money.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop having... All of you, all you listeners, stop having dispendable income.
It's terrible.
They'll stop coming after you when you have nothing to give.
Anyways, on that note, this is Dub Talk signing off. Y'all have a good night, everybody.
This is Gun Talk saying bang!
Otaku on the dubbas.
Aloha.
Rock on rock on Cleveland, rock on Boston.
You're a prog rock fan, huh? I never would have guessed.
始まりは